one of the other questions I'm sure you're entirely sick of, but I have to ask anyway, is, of course, there's this very vocal part of your fan base that wants you guys to do more metal again. It seemed at one point like it was sort of like, we're never going to do that again. But then you did, like with Post-Human Survival, and there's the deathcore medley, in the live set. I don't know if it still is, but at one point. So
Yeah.
how do you guys think about that stuff these days?
I guess we're not. I don't think anything's off limits for us now in terms of. Yeah, I don't think anything's off limits. So that's kind of why we decided. I think we realized that because there were so many different things we wanted to do, doing an album, it made sense for us to try and do this different kind of, to try and limit our options a little bit on each record. So I think that's part of the reason why we're in this, we're in a bit of a vibe for this record, because we want them to be coherent to some extent. So yeah, I think there will be really heavy stuff even on this record. I mean, on this record, there's heavy stuff, to be fair, but it's just not we're not going to release it as a single.
Right.
Just ideally you want your single to be something catchy. I mean, we actually might, but
I mean, who knows?
To be fair, we might. Yeah, I think we actually are, but yeah, I don't know. To be honest, your guess is as good as mine. I don't know what we're doing. Yeah, we don't know what we're doing. I can't tell you what we're going to make in the future. We're just making what we are making right now. And honestly, some of the songs you just don't really know how they're going to come out until, even with a record, you can say, "Oh, we're going to make this or we're going to make that," and with the intention of having a real good balance of like super catchy songs and super heavy songs. Until you've actually made it, you really don't know exactly where you're going to end up. So it's hard to predict. And I get why there's people who would just want us to make heavy stuff, because they're probably into heavy stuff. That's fine. But there's a bunch of people also probably less vocal that would skip past a heavy song and go, "Oh, I'm not into that." So
right.
That you can't please. That's another thing I think I've learned as we've gone on our careers, that there's really no point trying to please everyone all the time. And that makes it easier to take criticism. I think when someone says, "What is this shit?" You just realize that it's impossible to avoid that if you're going to move all over the place with different genres all the way through your career. There's people are going to be put out all the time because, they'll say, "Oh, survival horror, perfect album for me. Love that album." So they're just not going to like. Then it's the next thing we do is not going to be as good for that person because we're not doing it again, or at least not immediately. We might come around in 10 years and do something similar or whatever, but.
Yeah.
That's done now, so we're going to try and do something slightly different. So so it keeps it fresh for us and keeps the band moving, kind of thing.
I mean, isn't that the place where every artist wants to be, though, where you can kind of just do whatever you want and know that there's going to be this core of people that are probably going to be receptive to it in some way or not? Like, that seems like it's the dream.
I guess so, but then I think if you're in that position and you're making that music, the dream feels like being able to just churn out the same song over and over again and not have to worry about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because like when you're in the middle of it, trying to work out some kind of head fuck and how do we make this work, and you've been grinding on a song for weeks and weeks.
Can't we just do another Shadow Moses?
Yeah, exactly. Like we know how to do that. Dugga dugga down. And can we just chug? So yeah, I guess it's not any easier. It's not like, oh, we can do whatever. It's not like, oh, we can do whatever we want. Our fans will lap up any old shit.
Right.
We still try. For us, the bar is quality. Trying to write really good songs, and that never gets easier, particularly. So yeah, I mean, sometimes I envy bands that can just keep doing very similar sounding records, because I think, it's not that hard, is it? You just go in and do more of the same. Your fans are going to like it.
Well, why don't you do it? I'm sure if you did a whole EP of songs that sound like Shadow Moses, I'm sure everybody metalcore Twitter would think it's the best thing in the world. So why don't you do it?
Well, I mean, it's just not that exciting to me, and to us, I don't think. And also, I think I do like it personally. I like it when people say, "Oh, bring me." You never know what they're going to do next, and they're always doing different things. That feels nice to hear that. So it is fun to surprise people and keep it interesting. And it's hard work, moving every time. But I think when all is said and done, I'll look back and feel good about that we were always trying to do different things and push ourselves and stuff. Um, and even if that means making something catchy and poppy, I think some people might see that as, oh, they're not progressing. It's really hard to write a song like that. So for me as a songwriter and a musician, that is, if we move into that territory for a record or for a song, it's just equally as challenging. It's not like it's easy to write a really catchy, massive rock song. It's harder, if anything.
In any genre.
In any genre, yeah. So it's not it, and to be honest, it's the same across the board. If we, on the heavy songs on survival horror, they're not easy to make. Them
Right.
not easy to make good ones that you would say are feel fresh and because a lot of our songs I think are reminiscent of something. Like there's an early influence there, and then it's a spin on it. So, for example, Dear Diary off Survival Horror, which is probably the heaviest track off that record, it's really a Slayer.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Slayer type of thrash vibe, that dun 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 dun, the kind of stabby thing.
Yeah.
So then it's kind of working out a way that we can take that and make it feel like it's completely not Slayer. And that's pretty much the brief for all of our songs is like take something that we like from the olden days and then mash it up with some other stuff and try and create something that feels like, oh, I've never heard that before.